Welcome to the Coach Harp Show. Today we have a very, very important guest who has been doing quite a bit service when he was a Vancouver police officer. We want to basically recognize for all the hard work he has done. His name is Doug Spencer. Doug, thank you for being on our show. There's a few things that I wanted to know about some of the stuff that police officers go to. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, what's the biggest challenge that you face in those type of tough situations regarding your safety?
Yeah, as long as you treat people professionally, and it can be the worst, most dangerous gang member, Hells Angels, whoever, I always treated them professionally. I explained my job is to stop you from selling drugs or doing whatever you're doing in gangs. And, as long as they knew our relationship and I didn't disrespect them, I got along with them. You can't make enemies. You got to make friends and try and turn them the other way, get them back, especially with young gang members, right? You have to support them, tell them these are your choices. The thing that really frustrated me, I came out years ago to Calgary, actually, for a gang conference. And I brought an ex-gang member with me, a kid that played rugby for Canada. And even when kids out here wanted to get out of gangs, there was nowhere for them to go, no support system. And one of the people in Calgary asked me, what kind of agencies do you have for getting a kid out of gangs? And I was embarrassed to say there was none. There was 173 agencies in Calgary for extracting a kid from gangs. There was 0 in Vancouver. That is embarrassing. Now they have the CFSU, the Combined Forces Unit. They have a gang extraction program where if a kid's in gangs, he can get out. He gets support and stuff to make that move that he's willing to make, right? So Vancouver was so far behind the ball compared to Alberta back then. That was frustrating to me. So finally it's come to fruition that if a kid's involved in stuff over his head and he wants to go somewhere, there's somewhere to go. There's support for him, right?
Wow, that's quite the, how you're saying about Alberta was ahead of the game. That's very interesting. I really thank you for that. So the next thing I'd like to know more about is, how do the youth enter this type of lifestyle at a young age?
Yeah, it can be a family thing, older brothers involved in it, cousins, even parents. I know parents that got their kids are involved in it. I know John Bryce from the Hells Angels, the president of Vancouver chapter, his kid's a Hells Angel now. So, it's a family thing. Usually, though, it's a kid who's gullible or susceptible to getting recruited into something, a kid lacking self-esteem and stuff, and they fall in with the wrong group, right? They get the wrong mentor, and that guy takes them down that path. Sell these drugs for me, go shoot this guy for me, and they think they have a family there. A lot of them are missing that family unit, and the gang actually replaces the family, and it gives them self-esteem and stuff. But kids are naive to understand that when you get involved in gangs, not only is there, you can make money and stuff, watch out. There's somebody behind you in your gang that wants to take your place. Not to mention other gangs are going to come after you if you try and take from them, right? These kids they recruit into gangs are just really naive. They don't know where they're going, right? They're lost.
Thank you for that insight, Doug. Doug, as we were talking about the youth getting involved into gang stuff like that, there's something that's been on my mind for quite a bit is, how do you decompress after dealing with these stressful environments?
Yeah, I do lots of volunteer. I coach baseball. I coach my kids' high school golf team. We go out and coach underprivileged kids in rugby, our police rugby team. There's a number of things I do. I personally, myself, I golf, I hike all the mountains out here in Vancouver. I bike, I decompress by just sometimes getting away from it all and helping kids that need self-esteem, and I build up their self-esteem. I teach them about golf, I teach them about baseball. In your case, Harp, it's football. There's even it could be art, it could be music. As long as those kids have a avenue of release and giving them self-esteem and learning stuff, they'll prosper.
Thank you for sharing that input. As you touch base on coaching kids, stuff like that, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what motivated you to get into this line of work in your law enforcement career?
Well, I'll tell you, Harp, I'm the third generation of 4 in Vancouver Police. My grandfather, my father was a policeman. Now my oldest boy is a policeman for the last 10 years. He's in Vancouver Police. It was a family thing, and being around my dad, going to Vancouver Police picnics and being around these men and women, it's completely motivating. You get to hear their stories, how they help people. It's the most amazing thing. You start out as a young policeman, you want to go out there and arrest the bad guy. Within 5 or 6 years, you realize they're not bad guys. They're not bad people. They're people that made bad decisions because of their drug use or drug addiction or whatever, right? And again, helping people. That's what a policeman is. He's a helper. You're there to make people safe, give them a hand up out of the gutter. If they're drug addicted, get them a bed at a rehab place. It does no good arresting. You're not going to arrest our problem away, right? Giving people resources, get them the treatment they need. A lot of them are mentally ill from their drug addiction, or they've had something in their life happen. Maybe they were abused by a alcoholic father or something like that has set them off, got them off track, right? And if you deal with their mental issues and the reason they started using drugs in the first place, and get them thinking positive, get them jobs, whatever. I've done that too. Kids that, they're out in the street dealing dope because they have no money. I've gone down to labor employment places in Vancouver and got guys jobs, and I never hear from them again because now they're living a good life. They got work, they got rent, they got food, right? Essentials. So, yeah, it's just the coolest thing, coolest job. I could arrest 100 bank robbers, and it doesn't mean nothing compared to helping one young person figure out their life and get back on track.
Thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of people do not hear that side, and I really honored to hear you sharing that with us today. Thank you very much. Seeing that you've been a third generation police officer, that really tells the family of policing you have within yourself. Is there any advice you have for parents, grandparents, coaches, and the youth?
Just for young people, be a mentor, make good decisions, be a good example, right? Teach them and don't give up on them, because everybody makes mistakes. I can tell you I've made mistakes as a policeman. I'm a human being. I've got in fights with guys that are drunk and causing problems and want to fight the police. And, I've ended up winning or whatever, getting on top so I could handcuff them. But afterwards, I always apologize to them. I said, I'm sorry I had to do that, but, you made the choice. You really got to set a good example to young people about behavior, and the old saying, passing it forward, right? Pass on good feelings. Never leave somebody thinking the police are their enemy. I always talk to every bad guy I ever arrested. I was always chatting to them before they went into the wagon or down to the jail. Drug addicts, you got to turn your life around, buddy. And guys used to look at me like, are you crazy? They're not going to listen to you. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't feel good about myself. I don't give up on the worst drug addict, the worst, most dangerous gangster. If I didn't do that, I wasn't me, frankly, right? You just really, You got to reach out as parents and coaches if you see a kid going sideways, hanging around with the wrong people. You see him, downtown Calgary or Edmonton or Vancouver, hanging out with the wrong guys down at nightclubs and stuff, and the kid's not even old enough to be there. You got to let somebody know that's going to go in there and change that behavior, right? Or the next thing you know, they're gone. That's what I find in gangs. In Vancouver, they were recruiting right out of the schools with, back in the day with Bindi Johal and them. They're coming right to the Vancouver high schools and recruiting these kids, and they would basically disappear. And then you'd see them a year later, they're involved in gangs or they're murdered or they're in jail, right? You got to keep track and try and keep kids on track to make themselves a better person.
That's quite an impact with what you just said right there, just the insight and how the advice that you give, because at the end of the day, you're 100% right. We're all human. We're trying to leave this a better place. If any of the audience wants to get in touch with you, what are some of the ways there, Doug?
You can get me at doug.spencer@oddsquad.com. That's my email. Oddsquad.com is our website. If you ever want us to come out to your school or community and give either drug talk or a gang talk, we have a mentorship program where you can bring a dozen kids from your school or your community out to Vancouver, and we'll walk them through the downtown east side and let them talk to the addicts about, what choices they made and how it led them to where they are. There's oddsquad.com. You can look on the website and see all the programs that we have available. We go all over the world. We've been up to the Arctic and Nunavut, back east. We had our drug guys actually went to Dubai and gave a talk to a bunch of policemen and stuff, how to deal with drug addiction, right? So we have documentary things that are out there. Tears for April, Through a Blue Lens, Gangs and Guns. We have a documentary. Our stuff can all be found on oddsquad.com website, but feel free to email me at doug.spencer@oddsquad.com.
Doug, I want to say thank you for taking your time today to be on the Coach Harp Show. And before you leave, I want to say thank you for your service that you have given to the Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, of what you have done as a police officer. So much appreciated.
Much appreciated, buddy. And I'll tell you, I'm proud of you coming from Vancouver and the work that you're doing. You're a good person and you're helping a lot of young people.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for everyone who watched the show today. Stay tuned for Coach Harp at www.coachharp.ca.